Well, folks, we're about 48 hours after the shocking blockbuster Rafael Devers trade between the Boston Red Sox and San Francisco Giants in exchange for two MLB players and two prospects. When all was said and done, Boston will officially acquire left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison, right-handed reliever Jordan Hicks, outfield prospects James Tibbs III, and right-handed reliever Jose Bello. The last little bit of fine print on the trade will see the Giants assume all of Devers' contract, which will pay him in excess of $250 million remaining through 2033. A point which shouldn't, in theory, matter to one of the richest teams in all of baseball, but, according to their press conference, apparently does. The fit for San Francisco is obvious, as they've needed left-handed hitting all season long. In fact, Devers' 15 home runs on the year are already one more than every left-handed bat on the Giants roster combined, and he should help balance out a lineup that is competing with the Los Angeles Dodgers in the ultra-competitive NL West. San Francisco has missed out on multiple high-profile free agents over the last several seasons, including Aaron Judge, Roki Sasaki, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, and more, with the front office clearly seeing that players are viewing them as second fiddle compared to their crosstown rivals. They opted to go out and acquire a premier bat via trade rather than relying on free agency. Giants manager Bob Melvin told members of the press, "To get a guy like Devers, there's a lot you have to give up for him, but this fits us perfectly. It's a power left-handed bat, a guy that can go the other way and hit for power in our ballpark. I mean, it's tailor-made for us, so kudos to the front office to swing this." And that's largely a theme that you'll find across most of the San Francisco Giants faithful, is that they are over the moon with this trade. Switching to the other end of the spectrum, the Boston faithful entered Monday with more questions than answers, and can largely be forgiven if they're starting to have flashbacks to February 10th, 2020, when the team traded franchise icon Mookie Betts and David Price to the Dodgers for Jeter Downs, Alex Verdugo, and Connor Wong. While there's still a long ways to go until we see how the young arms and prospects ultimately pan out in Beantown, that hasn't stopped talk radio, the blogosphere, and fans alike from already comparing this to one of the worst trades in franchise history. In fact, CBS Sports was quick to power rank some of the worst moves the front office has made in Boston baseball lore, and they currently have this one penciled in with an asterisk, up there with the Mookie Betts trade and even the Babe Ruth fiasco from the early 1900s. All in all, Boston should see some serviceable arms join the rotation and bullpen to help a roster that's high on young, talented positional prospects, but low on the arms front. Kyle Harrison is a once highly touted pitching prospect who has a 4.48 ERA over 182 and two-thirds innings pitched since debuting with the Giants in 2023. During that time, he's racked up 178 strikeouts, walked 62, and allowed 30 home runs. Still only 23 years old, Harrison could be a nice piece for the Red Sox starting rotation that has struggled out of the gates in 2025. That being said, he'll get acclimated to the Boston system at the AAA level to begin his Red Sox career. Jordan Hicks has oscillated between starter and reliever over the course of his big league career. One of the hardest throwing pitchers in all of baseball, Hicks has spent time as both a starter in San Francisco and closer with the St. Louis Cardinals. Boston needs help with both of their starting rotation and bullpen right now thanks to some injuries, but won't need to make any decisions on Hicks's deployment quite yet, as the righty is currently on the 15-day IL with inflammation in his right big toe. He has, however, already progressed to bullpen sessions, so return to MLB action isn't too far off. Shifting over to the prospects, Tibbs was the Giants' top pick, 13th overall from last year's MLB draft, so he comes with some high upside, but is likely a ways away from contributing at the major league level. Currently hitting .245 with 12 home runs and 32 RBIs across 56 games at high A, the Florida State product figures to enter the Red Sox top prospects list eventually. Meanwhile, the 20-year-old Bello has spent the season as a reliever for the Giants' rookie league affiliate, mowing down 28 hitters across just 18 innings. Even more encouraging is the fact that he's walked only 3 batters during the span, en route to a 2.0 ERA. Much like Tibbs, however, he's in need of additional seasoning before he can begin sniffing an MLB roster spot. With all of that in mind, attention was on Red Sox president and CEO Sam Kennedy and chief baseball officer Craig Breslow as they attempted to defend the decision to trade the 28-year-old Devers, fresh off a sweep of the rival New York Yankees and a 5-game winning streak, which extended to 6 with another victory over the Seattle Mariners on Monday night. Despite the recent hot streak, right out of the gate, the first questions directed at Breslow revolved around whether this trade signaled a waving of the white flag on the 2025 MLB season. To which he responded, "This is in no way signifying a waving of the white flag on 2025. We are as committed as we were 6 months ago to putting a winning team on the field, to competing for the division and making a deep postseason run. I do think that there's a real chance that at the end of the season, we're looking back and we've won more games than we otherwise would have." Now, there's an argument to be made that by relieving Devers of his DH duties, there's perhaps some clubhouse mojo which can get back on track following a disjointed, to put it lightly, start to the season in terms of vision from the front office and some of their players. As has been well chronicled to date, the two-time Silver Slugger was preparing to enter training camp as the team's starting third baseman. However, a late signing of Alex Bregman on the eve of spring training created a logjam on the infield. Initially, Devers, who's been serviceable, though unspectacular at third base defensively of late, refused to make a move from third base to DH, before ultimately relenting, but not before voicing his displeasure to anyone in the media who would listen. Fast forward to early May, and a season-ending injury to first baseman Tristan Casas prompted the front office to once again ask if Devers would be willing to switch positions and play first base. This time, Devers refused, which then prompted owner John Henry, Kennedy, and Breslow to fly to Kansas City, where the Red Sox were playing at the time, to try and talk through the matter. Ultimately, nothing got resolved. Devers continued DHing, the Red Sox continued platooning at first base, but clearly this served as a breaking point between the player and the organization, a fact that Kennedy alluded to after talks of how Devers was the largest contract in organization history was moved so early into his new deal. To quote Kennedy, "We had certain expectations that went with that contract. And when we came to the conclusion that we did not have a full alignment, we moved on." Alignment was clearly a word that both Kennedy and Breslow were coached up to use, given the fact that Kennedy used the word 9 times and Breslow used it 5 times himself in defending the deal. Breslow added, "As we think about the identity and the culture and the environment that is created by great teams, there is something amiss here, and it was something that we needed to act decisively to course correct." Kennedy chimed in with, "We did what we felt was in the best interest of the Red Sox on and off the field to win championships and to continue to ferociously and relentlessly pursue a culture that we want everyone in that clubhouse to embody, and doing everything in their power, night in and night out, to help the team." It's certainly an interesting take to attempt to justify a trade which has been largely panned by large portions of the fan base and media alike, and one which the front office had better hope pans out, because on paper, this Red Sox team, despite their recent hot streak, is notably weaker than they were a week ago when Devers was still in the lineup. With Devers headed out to the West Coast, it should open some additional at-bats and ensure that Marcelo Meyer, Christian Campbell, and Roman Anthony all see regular at-bats at the major league level. Red Sox manager Alex Cora has currently been shuffling the 3 around in order to keep them in the lineup. However, by freeing up a DH spot, this all but ensures regular at-bats for the trio of youngsters who entered the season as consensus top 15 MLB prospects. Breslow would wrap up his time saying, quote, "I understand why the initial reaction would be that it'd be tough to sit here and say when you move a player of Rafi's caliber, when you take that bat out of the lineup, how could I sit here and say that we're a better team? And I acknowledge on paper that we're not going to have the same lineup that we did. But this isn't about the game that is played on paper. This is about the game that's played on the field and ultimately about winning the most games that we can. And in order to do that, we're trying to put together the most functional and complete team that we can." Kennedy then chimed in, "I'll put our record up against anybody else's in Major League Baseball over the last 24 years. We're incredibly proud of what we've built here. We've got more trophies and banners to show for it than any other organization in Major League Baseball." While both acknowledged their own shortcomings in the handling of the Devers situation to kick off the season, both continued to preach alignment and that ultimately this would make the Red Sox a more competitive team moving forward. While many fans chalk that up to simple lip service, there is a path in which this could come true, but would require the Red Sox to be amongst the most aggressive teams heading into the July 31st MLB trade deadline. If Boston continues to operate around the fringes and add players here and there and just tinkering to their roster around the peripheries, then it'll be hard for them to sell to a fan base that's been as loyal and as patient as the Red Sox faithful have been over the past several seasons, that what they're doing is ultimately for the greater good of the team. If after moving out hundreds of millions of dollars in outstanding contracts to the Giants, Boston continues to operate as a small to mid-sized market team in terms of writing checks, then the argument to ship out a budding superstar and face of the franchise during lean years isn't going to hold much water. After all, this is the same franchise who managed to navigate the Manny Ramirez years and win a World Series title with him, despite some questionable on-field and off-field decisions. All in all, every team has challenges with personalities, big egos, and misaligned expectations between the front office and star players. It's management's job to course correct and get everyone back on the same page in order to keep competing for championships. If the trade frees up necessary resources to be able to go out and continue to add to the lineup, that's one thing. But if this is simply being spun as a character issue, when really it's cost-saving measures that are taking place, then that's an entirely different problem altogether. Currently sitting at 38-36 on the year, Boston continues another pivotal series against the Mariners tonight at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time, as they'll look to hold on to their final wildcard spot and extend their 6-game winning streak. Let us know what you think of the trade down below in the comments, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe.